Yo, we're back with the friend of the show, the one and only, the only one, Mark Madden, the superior IQ, even though Beagle Buke over here is calling himself the superior one. I don't know why, Mark, but welcome back to the show. Boom.
If nose were brains, Disco would have it over all of us, but nose ain't brains, Carlos.
Yes. Let me tell you something. We got you in here because you're a resident hockey expert with Ted Irving, who's also a friend of the show. And I'll be very honest here. Out of all the sports, hockey is probably the one I watch the least. But my interest is always generated when the Bruins are doing good, which they were this year. So I'm very interested in this year.
Well, the Bruins probably have the best team. Now, whether that translates over an odd playoff in August and September, I don't know. And they were the number one seed in the East, but now they're playing this seeding round among the top four teams in the East, which is kind of an artificial way to determine the number one seed. Now, what they're doing in these playoffs that they haven't done, well, the last time I remember them doing it might have been in the 70s or 80s. They're reseeding after every round. So whoever gets the number one seed in each conference, every time there's an upset in the previous round, the number one seed benefits from that the next round. They get to play that team that pulled the upset. So whoever gets the number one seed in the East will be the Stanley Cup favorite for me. And I think the best team is the Bruins, but they need that number one seed to maximize, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny because the only question mark for me is like how we're going to handle the long layoff because other than that, to have to fight for what we've already earned isn't ideal, but it could be worse. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and you look on the bright side with the Bruins, too. They have some, relatively older guys, especially Chara. Right. And Tuukka Rask, the goalie's no young guy either. Well, they've had 4 months to regenerate. Then again, the same thing can be said of any, player in his 30s, most notably the Penguins, whose 3 best players are Malkin, Crosby, and Letang, who are, all 32 or 33. So yeah, I think this is just a crapshoot.
Yeah, and don't forget on the Bruins, you also got Marchand, Krejci, Bergeron. All of those guys are over 30 years old.
Yeah, that's the best line in hockey. Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak. So if the Bruins can just, get in gear right away, and like I said, the team they play in the first round, if they get the number one seed or even number 2, won't be a very good seed. Now, what you want to not do is get the number 4 seed, because if you get the number 4 seed in the East, you play the Penguins in the first round proper after the 3 out of 5 prelim. And I think the Penguins actually have the best team on paper, but I think being the number 5 seed, they'll never get a break. They'll never play a weaker opponent. They'll probably have to beat Tampa Bay, Washington, and Boston in some order just to get to the final. And going back to last year, the Bruins were the best team in hockey last year.
Right.
But the West was so much weaker that by the time the Bruins got to the final to play St. Louis, the Bruins were just worn out. And right. I thought that really showed in Game 7.
Right, especially going with Toronto 7 games.
Hey, look, here's what I want to do. I think because this would be the best way to go, because now – there's a lot of uncertainty because we haven't seen any of these teams play yet. They're going in cold and they're just starting the playoffs basically. But let's talk about we're going to go over each series, okay? And then you pick like how you see the seedings go for the round robin.
Yes.
Right? Is that good, Joe? Mark?
Do you follow hockey or no?
No.
Okay, but can you put down our picks so we can revisit them?
Yep.
All right. So to start off,
okay, so you're going to go through the series in the prelim round, and then you're going to ask me to pick what the seedings are.
No. You give your pick for who's to advance, and then because this is so vague because it's never been done before, and then you tell me teams you like to move forward and teams you don't like to like, and teams like, and just give us a couple picks to click and a couple teams you think.
Well, there are going to be a couple upsets in the prelim round, so let's go. Let's pick the prelim round.
Okay, let's do that, and then we'll go get into the round robins. All right, so Rangers and Hurricanes.
Rangers. Rangers were one of the hottest teams before the pause. I don't think that translates to now. Carolina's had some guys hurt, but Dougie Hamilton's apparently hurt again. Their number 1 defenseman. They do have their goaltending back. But I think Artemi Panarin's one of the best 2 or 3 players in hockey. If the Rangers can get their goaltending straightened out, I'm going to pick the Rangers in 5. That's my first upset special.
And I like that, but let me give you this too. the reason the Rangers turned their season around things was Sheshketin was on fire. This young kid, but then he got hurt. Now they have. Do you know where who's going to be starting? Because are they going to start Lundqvist? They're going to start Sheshketin, but I heard they got another. Who's their third goalie? They might even play him.
Well, they got 3 pretty good goalies, Lundqvist and the 2 kids. But well, I don't know if they give Lundqvist the start out of veteran respect. That's the worst thing they can do. His time's over, and who'd he ever beat anyway? He's the most overrated goalie in history.
That's very blasphemous. I'm a Ranger. Next is
well, then you know what I'm talking about. You win all your championships since 1994, right?
Exactly. Next is Blackhawks and Oilers.
I think the Oilers will win, but I bet it goes 5 games. The Blackhawks have a bunch of guys who obviously have won Stanley Cups. They're not deep at all, though, and some of those guys are slowing down. Patrick Kane's still at the very top of his game, though. I'm not a big fan of Connor McJesus in pressure games.
Really?
He's only won, one playoff series his whole career so far.
Well, how long has he been in the league?
Come on.
How long has he been in the league?
This will be his 4th or 5th year, I think. I think it's 4th.
Yeah, but his first 2 years was like the worst team in the league. I mean, Edmonton was atrocious.
Until you win, you haven't.
Okay. All right, so you're taking Edmonton.
But Draisaitl had a great year, so I think Oilers in 5.
I just think Draisaitl and the Connor McDavid show is going to be too much for Kane and Toews and the whole Blackhawk thing, so I agree there.
You're probably right, Konnan, but here's how I can see that series going. I can see the Hawks winning a couple games like 4-3, and the Oilers winning 3 games like 7-1.
I could see that too.
Who's going to play goalie for the Blackhawks? Because Corey Crawford is former Skybox participant. Corey Crawford. Do you like?
Well, and they traded Robin Lehner because they never thought they were going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and we got Lehner because we're all in for a championship.
Oh, what do you mean? Who's we? 1 minute the Rangers are we. 1 minute Vegas is we. Make up your friggin' mind, you front runner.
Please don't be disrespectful to the host. Okay. Next we got Panthers and Islanders.
That's a tough one. I'm going to go with the Islanders though because they killed the Penguins last year in the first round, 4 straight. They got a couple good goaltenders, and Barry Trotz is a great coach. Not a good coach, but a great coach. Then again, he's going up against Kenville, so I'm going to go with Islanders in 4.
Do you think Bobrovsky shows up or no?
No. I think he can't wait to get to home. Then again, can he travel? I don't know. I don't know what the restrictions are, but no. Whenever you have a Russian free agent,
right,
he's going to go to New York so he can hang out in Brighton Beach, which is the Russian community, or he's going to go to Florida because it's nice.
Right.
And once those guys get to where they're going, they've won their Stanley Cup. It just doesn't mean as much to them, although there are exceptions like Malkin here in Pittsburgh and maybe Panarin in New York, but Bob is not one of those exceptions.
Okay, next we got the Canadiens and the Penguins. How do you see this going?
Penguins in 3. If I could pick Penguins in 2, I would.
Why is that?
Because the Canadiens stink.
That's very disrespectful. Our Canadian fans are not going to appreciate you.
How about all those injuries? Are all those guys better now?
Well, the Canadiens traded a bunch of guys at the deadline because they never thought they'd make the playoffs. Shea Weber's back. They had a couple. Max Domi's going to play, even though he's diabetic and at theoretically bigger risk. The weird part about the Canadiens is...
Wait, Carlos has a question.
Reese is coming back too, right?
Dale Weiss, yeah, he's back. But, he's going to slot in on the 3rd or 4th line. The weird thing about the Canadiens is I like their coach, Claude Julien.
Right.
But he'll have them trapped against the Penguins because that's their best chance tactically to slow the game down. But they got a bunch of good skaters up front with, like, Gallagher, Domi, Drouin, Thomas Tatar. So, in a way, if they trap... Tactically, it's what I would do, but they'll be playing away from their strengths. Then again, I don't know if that group of forwards, as good as they are, could be Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, and so forth straight up.
All right, so next we got this is an interesting one to me, the Jets and the Flames.
That is an interesting one. I'm going to go with the Jets because Hellebuck is the best goalie in hockey this year. That could be fleeting. I don't know if he's of that pedigree, but that's a tough series to pick, so I'm going to go with the Jets.
Okay, next one, we have the...
And by the way, getting back to Edmonton and Chicago...
Even though they have a terrible D.
Getting back to Edmonton, Chicago, I don't even know who's in goal for Chicago, and I know he's going to do better than Mike Smith. I have no faith in Mike Smith in Edmonton's net.
Okay.
But let me ask you a question. So you think even though with the bad D that Winnipeg Jets have, Connor will be able to pull them out?
He did all year.
That's true.
Okay.
Konnan, he was by far the best goalie this year. Well, I said, I don't think he can keep it up, but as you said, their D's not very good at all, and he held him in there game in and game out.
Yeah, you're right, because him and not because he's a Bruin, but Tuukka Rask and the guy from Tampa Bay, I think those were the 3 best goalies.
Vasilevsky, yeah, he's good. Vasilevsky's the prototypical goalie. He has more tools than anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, next we got the Coyotes and the Predators.
Well, I'd love to pick the Coyotes, but they just had that controversy where their GM, Chaika, walked out, and nobody seems to know why. And
what happened?
I can't get hold of Tocchet. I don't know. I can't get hold of Rick Tocchet, their coach, former Penguin player and assistant coach. So I don't know. I'd like to pick Arizona, but I think they're in a bit of turmoil. I don't like Nashville. I think they're past their prime, and they won't accept that Pekka Rinne is a bum now. But I still am going to pick Nashville in 5 games.
But you don't like Nashville's defense?
I love Nashville's defense. That's a great crew, and they actually upgraded when they got rid of Subban because he was too individualistic for that defensive core and for that team, really. But Rinne is just shot. I mean, I can't believe they've stuck with him as long as they have. He fell apart against Pittsburgh in the 2017 finals, and they keep throwing him out there acting like he can rejuvenate himself, and he just has not.
I'll tell you this, Arizona must feel weird being in the playoffs since they hardly ever make it. And they don't score a lot of goals either.
It's not really the playoffs. Yeah, Kessel went there, the Penguin, and he's done nothing. But that didn't surprise me because Phil's a good power play guy, and he's a good player. But if he's the biggest offensive threat on your team, it's going to weigh on him heavily.
Okay, next is the one Konnan is very interested in, the Flyers and the Bruins. Flyers and Bruins. Oh, wait, no, stop it. That's a round robin. Blue Jackets and Maple Leafs. Blue Jackets, Maple Leafs.
Bob Airey, who's the Penguins color commentator and won 2 cups in 91 and 92 with the team, he's picking Columbus to win the Eastern Conference.
Wow.
Which is an amazing pick. I am going to pick them to upset Toronto. I have no faith in Toronto. Whatever it is they never had, they still haven't got. I love Matthews and Marner. They didn't need Tavares. They needed to spend that money a couple years back on free agent defensemen and not Tavares. What really helped Columbus is they got Seth Jones back from injury. And Seth Jones might be the best defenseman in the league. And when he and Werenski play together, they're the best defensive tandem in the league. So even though they lost Bobrovsky, they still have some decent goaltending with that Elvis kid and Korpisalo. So I think they get past the Maple Leafs in 5 games.
What I love about this is if Toronto wins, they have to face Boston, and we all know how much they love seeing us in the playoffs, right, Mark?
Well, we don't know if they're going to play Boston because they got to get seeded.
I know, but I'm just saying if they did,
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah, I don't think Toronto, Konnan, can beat any of the top 5 teams.
Well, let me ask you this too: what year was it where they blew the 3-0 lead in the 3-0 lead in Game 7 against the Bruins? Was that last year or 2 years ago?
2013.
Oh
no, that's a long time ago now.
13.
Was that long?
Yeah, I think that is. I think it was 13.
Bro.
Yeah, it was 13 because then the Bruins went on to beat the Penguins in the conference final. That's right.
Bro, they were down 4-1. I saw that game. They were down 4-1 in the third period, Game 7, and won 5-4 in overtime.
Wait, that wasn't this past year or 2 years ago?
No, in 2008 and 2019, we won Game 7.
Right, you won 2 games, but that okay.
But we did come down from.
It happened in 2013.
Okay, no, they come flat. Yeah, but they did lose. Didn't they blow a 3-1 series? They blew something last year. What were they? Weren't they up in the series, or were they just? What was going on there?
It's really inspiring to see the host of the show as prepared as you are.
Okay, well, I don't care about those teams. The only team I care about is my hometown, Vegas Golden Knights. Wild and Canucks.
Boy, if they were playing that game on my back porch, I'd pull down the shade.
Wow.
I'm going to go with the Canucks. They're young. They got that Pettersson kid. They have a bunch of young talent out there. They got that Hughes goalie, that Markstrom. I'm going to go with Canucks in 4. And Minnesota, boy, they're just – remember they signed Parise and Suter all those years ago and thought they were headed for great things? They've not even come close.
I also like the kid on the Canucks, Hughes.
Yeah, he's really good, isn't he? And his brother's the Hughes kid that went to New Jersey, number 1. Well, I'll tell you what, they're both little guys, too. I don't know how they play around their size, but so far so good, and I think they will get bigger.
Okay, so I just now, today, because the hockey starts next week. It's the weekend it starts. But I hadn't really been paying attention. I had no idea that the Flyers snuck into the top 4. So they must have been hot. So let's talk about the East round robin. You get the Flyers, Bruins, Capitals, Tampa Bay. How do you see that playing out?
Well, what's funny about that is I don't know how serious.
Tell me when did the Flyers go on a run? They're 41-28-7. I don't remember them being this good. Like
the Flyers had a huge run at the end of the season. What led into the break, and the Penguins lost 8 out of 11 going into the break, which is how the Flyers overhauled Pittsburgh.
Yeah, like the last 2 months, right?
Yeah, well, not that long, but probably the last month.
Right.
The Flyers were just on fire, maybe 6 weeks. But I don't know how serious these teams are going to take the round robin. They should, because like I said, that number 1 seed with the reseeding is as good as gold. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to play anybody who's banged up, and I don't blame them for that, really. But I think it's important to try to get that number 1 seed. Now, all things being equal, let's say they all play, with the expected intensity. I think Boston's going to get the number 1 seed. I think it's going to stay like it would have been. Boston, Tampa, Washington, Philadelphia. It wouldn't shock me if Tampa and Boston interchanged. It wouldn't shock me if Washington and Philadelphia interchanged. But I'll go with the original order.
So then who
will Nolan Patrick be returning to Philadelphia or no?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I didn't put it this way. I don't recall seeing him out there tonight. I think he must still be hurt.
Okay.
He's got like a migraine or some shit, right? Some migraine disorder, something like that.
Well, me too after this show, but it's not stopping me.
So, top 4 in the West: Golden Knights, Stars, Avalanche, and Blues.
Golden Knights who?
Stars, Avalanche, and Blues.
Well, a lot of people are picking the Stars. I am not. I think the order is going to be Golden Knights 1, Avalanche 2.
Why do you like the?
Because I think they have the best team in the West on paper and haven't played to their potential. Now, I don't know what they're going to do in goal. You hear that the new coach, DeBar, might lean toward Lehner, who they got at the deadline from the Blackhawks. But I love that Stone kid. What a great two-way player he is. The Knights have been a different and better team since they acquired him last year. So I'm going to go Knights, then Avalanche because they got Rantanen back, and that line's as good as any in hockey. McKinnon is as good as anybody in hockey.
Question. I'm sorry, Mark, before I forget. Who would you start, Lehner or Fleury?
You know what? Fleury's like a friend of mine. He played here for so long. I would start Fleury and have a real short leash.
Here's another thing, too, and this is how going into this thing cold, and in the NHL playoffs more than anything, goaltending's the number 1 thing. We don't know who the hot goalie is yet. And we know that any of these teams that do not get it, like if the goaltending's poor, the goaltending is hot, like the way this format's set up and they just get right back straight into the playoffs, nobody had there's no momentum, there's no decline, there's nothing leading up to this. We're just starting from scratch.
No, it's a unique situation. You're starting the playoffs right out of training camp, but I would still go Vegas, Colorado, St. Louis, then Dallas.
Okay, so who do you look, who just based on what you've seen so far, what you know so far, who do you see getting in? Who do you see the final 2 teams playing?
Well, I think the 2 best teams are Boston and Las Vegas, but I'm going to interchange Vegas and Colorado. I think they're neck and neck, and St. Louis not far behind. But let me give a kind of screwy pick here. I don't think anybody in the game or covering the game recognizes the value of the reseeding process to the number 1 seed in each conference. So I'm going to pick Boston and Vegas, but I'm also going to put a disclaimer in. Whoever the number 1 seeds are in each conference will make the final. But I'm predicting that will be Boston and Vegas.
So, all right, sounds good.
I would like to say that I'm picking Boston and Vegas, and one of the main reasons is I've never in my life been to a hockey playoff game, and I would love to go to Vegas because I know Disco could hook me up and watch the Bruins against.
Well, Madden would be probably a better hookup than me.
Maybe Madden. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know who might be a better hookup than either of us? Dr. Fauci, because it's going to be played behind closed doors.
Right. Let me say this: your dream.
That's tremendous, Mark. I might have to call him then.
Marcus, your dream is your future dream final when we get stadiums back is to have the Vegas Penguins play the Stanley Cup final?
Oh, I got to be honest. I think that I will die before all this is over. And I don't think I'm going to die anytime soon, but I think that in my lifetime we won't have concerts again. I think there's maybe a 50-50 chance we're going to have fans in the stands at sporting events again. The travel ban isn't going to be lifted anytime soon. This is just a terrible time. I'm embarrassed to be an American because we screwed it up so royally.
So I like Boston. I'm going to go with Boston and Vegas. That makes sense. And plus, it's the shortest out.
You're just going with Boston and Vegas because I picked Boston and Vegas and Konnan picked Boston and Vegas.
No, you have good reasoning. You're picking them to be the number one.
You pick third. You pick third. You know nothing. Okay. You're just copying experts. That's all you're doing. Like always.
I'm changing my pick. I'm picking Vegas, Columbus, because that guy. I think that guy's smarter than you, and that guy. I'm going to go with that guy instead of the 166. I'm going to go with Columbus and Vegas in the finals. What do you think about that?
What's the guy's name again? That's smarter than me?
I don't know. You said he was the guy that you said.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the hockey picks, and we'll be tracking those, and maybe hopefully it enlighten our fans into what's going to happen next.